So, Nico, what mug are you using, sir, this morning?
Today's the Juan Valdez, the white invisible cup, apparently, because it's white.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little Juan Valdez cup. And it's my first one. And you can tell by the fact that I am slightly late. And I do apologize. It is spring break for the kiddos over here. And that makes it a lot harder to just get going in your morning.
Nothing wrong with that, brother. Trust me,
Well,
I understand it completely. So we will go in a no dilly, no dally zone. We'll start off with CONCACAF Champions League,
oh,
and
did that happen?
yeah, I guess if Messi and friends didn't make it to the semis, it obviously didn't. It was a long night, brother, for Messi and friends. They got thumped at Monterrey. Jordi Alba kind of lost his plot a little bit in the second half. Hand to the throat. 4 minutes later, studs to the instep. Jordi Alba's out the door. He ain't happy. Luis Suarez does the dollar sign to the center ref, kind of not remembering that bruh, if CONCACAF wanted that, you'd be in the tournament. It was a long night for Messi and friends in Monterrey.
Yeah, tough game. I thought that Monterrey understood the assignment. They knew that they were the ones that had the game to their advantage. They were very cautious and careful on how they um, planned the defensive scheme to just limit Messi throughout the whole game. They provided them the ball and kept possession in areas that they weren't really dangerous with the ball. So they allowed Inter Miami to have the ball, move it around, but they really had no penetration. They had no ability to really affect the game. It just seemed like Monterrey was the most dangerous team throughout the whole game. Messi had a couple of opportunities, maybe not as sharp, coming in from an injury, hasn't been playing. Um, I thought that with um, Franco Negri coming back, that maybe he was going to start this game. And no, no, no. I get that you want Jordy on the field,
Yeah.
but maybe putting him in the second half against already tired Aguirre and maybe allowing him to get into the game and be more impactful then with his ability to pass, to get forward, because Franco Negri, he was going to get that side tired. I mean, you saw him against Colorado. I thought he was phenomenal in the way that he moves and how much pressure he puts on. I think he has great service into the box. So maybe I thought that with the problems in depth and injuries, maybe Tata was going to use that as a resource to have another player to just come in and be more impactful at a particular time. He didn't. The midfield by Canales and Romo just was too much for Miami to handle. And no disrespect to Gomez, who he had the goal. I think he's progressing as a young player in MLS, but it just wasn't enough. Not to mention the fact that when you're already playing a top team in the region and you give them a goal the way Calendar did, you're just putting yourselves in a bad position, right? So I've thought throughout this year, Inter Miami needs to understand that sometimes the tiki taka playing out of the bag just needs to be moved on, and at times you got to be more direct, and at times the easy pass is the better pass, and Calendar just dumping that ball to midfield would have been so much better. So just too many mistakes against a Monterrey team that ultimately was the better squad, the better roster, and they deservedly go to the next round.
And you end up with a Final Four. On the left-hand side, it's two Liga MX sides. And on the right-hand side, this is where Crew comes into play. So Crew makes their way into the Final Four. And I was making the point earlier in the show that I know everybody's sitting there and screaming about, roster this, roster that, cap this, cap that, do all these things. But under the current construct, Columbus is the better team. 1 through, where Jason was on earlier this morning, and he goes, okay, you look at Inter Miami 1-6, gangbusters. You've got all the heavy hitters and all that kind of stuff. But then the rest of that starting 11, you were like, defense, okay, I guess we have to have dudes out there. And so we got dudes out there with the heavy hitters. And then the bench, you look at the bench, and it's your draft picks and your budget guys. So Crew, the better constructed team to what Wilfred Nancy wants to do right now. Inter Miami constructed the way that they wanted to construct themselves, going gangbusters and trying to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, it's just the structure of a team that has not just an identity, but that they picked up what Nancy wanted them to do immediately. They have the quality. They have a team that can pressure very effectively, whether it's counter pressure, whether it's pressing high. Defensively, they're solid. They're just a balanced team. And like you said, maybe under the same regulations through the MLS and the limitation that you have in the cap, they've put together a very balanced team that was able to beat a Tigres team without their best player in the first game. 20 minutes down a man in the first leg, gifting a goal to the opposition 3 minutes in the second leg, and not having a guy like Aiden Morris as part of this team. So that tells you enough about this Columbus team, what they're about. Sometimes the next man up mentality is just a saying, is just something that you say to people. This team really has that, and they've thrived on being able to put whoever it is, whether it's Hinestrosa or Rowe or Matan, and in the midfield, whether it's Aiden Morris or Jones or Nagby or whoever it is. So it's just credit to this Columbus squad. I thought, looking at the bracket, the same way you looked at the March Madness bracket and you knew that it was going to be Yukon all along, I thought Columbus was going to be the MLS team all along. So they are where they're supposed to be. I still think that they have a good chance at winning this thing. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like they have enough of a system and talent to take on the challenge of maybe getting a CONCACAF Cup.
All right, let's talk about the week that was before we get into a cliffhanger here this morning, as we always do, because we always like to go backward to kind of analyze things, see where things sit, and then go sprinting into the week that will be. When you look at what happened last week in Major League Soccer, I know that I want to catch up with you about what's going on in Seattle, because I know that Brian Schmetzer had some time to talk, and it turned out to be a make-right game for Seattle, putting 5 on the board against CF Montreal that has drawn a lot of praise so far getting into this particular point of the season under Laurent Courtois. But Seattle brought out the whooping stick and put 5 on the board for the win.
Yeah, we could start there. Unexpected. I'm going to be quite frank. I don't think anybody, even Brian Schmetzer, I doubt he drew it up that way. But that's the way it happened. And it's credit to the players. It's credit to a team that I believe just had players in the wrong positions. And in this one, everything just happened to work. After the game, I had asked Raul Ruiz about, in the past decade, the forte, the big factor that made Seattle such a successful team was the fact that this team could play out of memory. They had a chemistry. Everybody knew where everybody had to be at. And in this particular game, it felt like they found it. So whether they need to continue to not move any pieces, or they need to continue work this way as they get players back, you can see the potential that Seattle has if they're playing at their best, if everything goes their way. And I've said that from the very beginning of the season, that this team had the potential to be a top team in the West only if things went their way. So perhaps with this momentum and this epiphany that maybe Jordan Morris should never, ever, ever play the striker position again, and that he's your most valuable and he has the best assets to help your team, whether it's on the left or the right, out wide. then things should continue to go well for Seattle. I think that Seattle's lucky that Raul Ruidiaz has been as mature, professional, relentless, because he could have very well not decided to get off his behind from the bench, right? This is where you want me. This is where I'm going to be at. But he has been fantastic. He's been great. I asked Obed Vargas just yesterday that what's different, what's changed about Raul Ruidiaz. He told me it's not that nothing's changed. It's just that he just seems to be so focused, and he's the first one here. Like anytime that we get to the training camp, his car is the first one here. He's the last one to leave. So I just think that he's decided that no matter what, this is his team. No Nicolas Lodero. This is my squad. I'm going to be the guy that's going to get them out of this rut. And he did it deservingly. He got 2 goals. He got an assist before the assist. I thought he was the best player of the match against Montreal. So I do believe that as long as this continues to work that way and Raul keeps that pride in his chest to say, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the one that's going to get us out of here, they're going to continue to play well.
All right, other Western action. I mean, some of these matches last weekend, man, they found the mate with the extra special edition that was attached to it. I mean, you end up with Austin and San Jose. I think somebody scored all over again just now before the segment started. Finished up 4-3, absolute craziness with a goal scored at the 212th minute to get the 4-3 win for Austin. El Tráfico went to LAFC 2-1. We figured that one was going to be tight and chippy. Vancouver, welcome back Benny Sartini. They brought out the whooping stick too. They didn't score as many as Seattle, but they shut out Toronto 4-0. And then you end up with Kansas City and Portland. They were on the good stuff too with a 6-goal thriller at 3-3. Once again, Portland, you can't hang on to a lead. And this time it happened on the road. From the other action out west, what sticks in your mind?
Well, in this one, let's start with Portland. I mean, I thought that they bounced back, right? I mean, they're down 3-0 against Kansas City. I don't know if they needed a little kick in the behind to really get going. I heard from John Rojas that Neville talked to the team at halftime, and he said there are no soccer players out there. That's not players who want to be that are pros out there. That's not what I think I'm seeing out there. And the guys came out in the second half and played a lot better. Evander got on the ball. They were able to stretch out this Kansas City defense. So I do want to praise Portland for having that fight to get back into a game that looked like it was over. I kid you not. I turned the TV off because Agata was going to he was about to kick a PK for the 4-0.
He pulled it, yeah.
And he pulled it, right? And I left. I had to go pick up a couple of steaks. So I left. When I came back, I see 3-3. I'm like, what happened? So I went back, looked at the game. So I just think Timbers, if they can figure out the defensive woes, because they're constant and persistent, I think they could be a very good team. Austin San Jose, I was not expecting. I don't know. I thought it was going to be a boring game, and it ended up being a goal fiesta. But I'm very surprised and very impressed with Vancouver. If you would have told me that they were going to be top of the West at this time this season, I would have told you were crazy. I think that they have some quality players. I think Vita has been really good. I think Gold's been really good, and White. They have options up top now with Fafa, and it just seems like they have something going well in this Vancouver team. So they've been interesting to see. They're probably the most surprising out of the West today. And when it comes to the Tráfico, I thought that the LA Galaxy did enough to equalize that game. I thought that the PK was made up. There's no way that that's a PK, in my opinion. You can tell that the defender is pulling his leg back. Bouanga looks for the contact. He fakes it. He's already fallen. That should never be a PK. I thought LA Galaxy did enough to tie that game up. We gave Jordan Morris a lot of heat for missing that gimme shot in front of the Quakes in a tougher environment with rain. Buanga gets a gimme one here that there's no goalkeeper. He's in front of goal. He puts it above, and that just tells you that maybe they're not as sharp as they've been in the past. So I thought it was a good game. LA Galaxy could have tied it up, but I think LAFC knew exactly how to attack the Galaxy, and they've had a little bit of they've had their number in the time being of that rivalry in general. So I just thought that they did well to beat up the Galaxy team at the end. But did the reffing help? Yeah, absolutely.
One more topic before we get into Cliffhanger. Emmanuel Reynoso.
Oh,
And it was disclosed by Chief Soccer Officer Khalid El Ahmad with Minnesota United that Reynoso had meetings scheduled in Argentina last year, and I don't mean like 12 months ago or whenever, but last calendar year, and this year, and basically ghosted both meetings. Yeah. Don't know the reason, don't know the rationale. You hope that for someone, if there are deep thoughts that Emmanuel Reynoso is having right now back home, that he gets the counsel that he needs in this kind of a situation. But it is an eyebrow raiser with what's going on with Reynoso in Minnesota United right now. Twice doesn't show, and Minnesota United's without their best player still.
Look, man, I want to be very honest. I think that being talented is one thing, and being great at what you do is one thing. But if I was an owner of a team and I got to pick a guy that's extremely talented, but he isn't responsible. He seems like he doesn't really care. He has all these problems outside of the field. And then you give me a guy that maybe is not as talented, but he puts in a lot of effort and he's there every day and he is a model citizen. I'm going to go with the guy that's a model citizen, especially if I'm spending a lot of money on a player. I think Minnesota should have had enough of Emmanuel Reynoso, and not to be dismissful or insensitive about whatever issues he has as a person. But Minnesota United is in a position where they need to give their fans some results. And it seems like they've done good enough to start of the season where maybe you got to start planning to be without Emmanuel Reynoso, and maybe you got to cut your losses with him, because this is consistent. And every season you're trying to figure out what is he going to do wrong? When is he not going to show up? And you can't do that to a team. You can't do that to a team that needs to, first off, understand the module of a new coach, understand chemistry with a new system, and now you add something the size of Emmanuel Reynoso's distractions. It can become a cancer in your locker room. I mean, I just don't see how Minnesota doesn't just, let it go and cut their losses, because it's just becoming too much to handle, to bear for this Minnesota team.
Yep, and so we'll see if Minnesota tries to get some kind of special dispensation, permission, what have you, or do they use their get out of jail free card if they still have it? So we'll see what the latest is with Reynoso when we know more. All right, time for Cliffhanger. Time to go through the matchups, and when you want to talk about one coming up this weekend, obviously we will allow for time more than normal, discussing Seattle, discussing Atlanta, and we'll go down the roll and lay it all out. Portland and LAFC kick things off, and LAFC is a slight road favorite going to Portland. That one is a 4:45 Eastern time kick on Saturday. Then the 7:30s, Montreal hosting Cincinnati. Seriously, yell. If you want, like I said, as always, just
what's the numbers on Portland?
Plus 164, slight underdog at home.
And what about that draw?
Plus 263 in the composite.
Ooh, and how about goals? What's the breakdown on goals?
All right, hang on just a second. Let me get there. The composite, once again, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. What they do is they take the average of, say, 13 to 17 different juice box purveyors, throw them in a pile, and come out with the average.
Love it.
2.5 over under a minus 144. 3.5 is a plus 171. So basically, if you think it's going to be a 2-2 draw and you go over at 3.5, it's a plus 171.
Yeah, man. I'll take the draw, and I'll take it with more than the 2.5. I mean, you look at both of these teams, they have shown throughout the season that they have the guns up top, but they have some issues in the back. So Portland has consistently made it very difficult for LAFC whenever they play right here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
I see them coming in from a game that, although it was a 3-3, you might have some momentum, that the fact that you were able to come back from that. Love Evander, love Anthony. I think that Santiago Moreno is heating up. I see that to be a 2-2, 3-3 type of draw on that one.
All right, so if you go 2-2 and you say 3.5, you're at a plus 171. If you think it's going to be 3-3, 5.5 over under is a plus 840.
Oh,
So
that, yeah, no,
I
get that. It would be awesome, but I'll stick with the more sure juice box there with the 2-2.
3.5 is a plus 171. All right,
Oh,
so
yeah.
get into the 730s. Montreal is a home favorite against FC Cincinnati. Charlotte on the minus side, favored at home against Toronto FC. DC favored at a plus 108, hosting the purple team. New York City FC on the minus side, favored against the Revs. Red Bulls favored on the minus side against Chicago. 8:30, and this is where we stop because it involves Seattle. Seattle on the road at FC Dallas. Seattle a plus 145. Your draw's a plus 219. FC Dallas basically a plus 200, but you're a road favorite on the plus side for the Seattle Sounders.
Yeah, I think I would pick the Seattle Sounders in this one. I mean, Dallas has had a bunch of injury problems. For Seattle, not only are you coming from big game, but Leo Chu practiced in what seems to be in full, at least the last 2 days. Brian Spetzer said that he was a partial participant, but he's looked on a tear. I mean, yesterday there was a scrimmage against the Tacoma Defiance. There was a scrimmage between inner squad scrimmage, and Leo Chu was absolutely taking no prisoners. Looked good, looked fast. Maybe the fact that Jordan Morris is out there looking really good on that left side gives him a little motivation to get back at it, and that just gives Seattle more depth. I talked about Raul Ruiz. I think that the midfield is going to be very solid. Maybe João Paulo start this one. Maybe he just comes in the second half. It's a work in progress with João Paulo, but having him back is huge. He played, I think, 15 minutes against Montreal. So it's a work in progress. I think that there's a lot of good things coming in from Seattle against a Dallas team that has issues with their system, has issues with injuries. So I see Seattle winning this one.
All right, the other 8:30s. The Loons at home on the plus side, favored against Houston at a plus 104. Arrowhead Stadium, whatever they call it now, Jihad Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Sporting Kansas City. Well, they ain't sponsoring the show, so for me, it's always Arrowhead until further notice. Sporting Kansas City at home, favored at a plus 122. Draws a plus 259. Messi and friends come to town at a plus 204. Uh-oh.
I don't know, man. I might take Miami with those numbers, man. Look, I understand that they just got beat up, and you're going into a game that you're potentially going to have to rotate a lot of players in general. But maybe you don't. Maybe Tata just surprises you and says, "Look, we gotta shake this rust off. We gotta shake this L off our systems, and we need to give the fans something to smile about." And they'll go in here and they really hit up Sporting Kansas City. So against my own best judgment, I'm going to take Inter Miami in this one. And we'll see next week if that goes through. Last time we hit on the Red Bulls, I thought we hit that one really well last week. So I'm going to go with Inter Miami in this one. Let's see what happens.
And a plus 204. I see where you're going. RSL, and this is interesting. RSL at home, hosting Crew. Crew, we know what Crew bring to the table. Crew are the dog here at a plus 208 going to RSL. Draws a plus 254. RSL favored at a plus 121. Does Chicho Arango go off against Crew, who have to turn around on short rest after the match with Tigres.
Yeah, I can see what the numbers are skewed that way. I'll still go with a draw. I think Columbus has shown that, like I said, regardless of who's in there in the rotation, they are a very systematic team. RSL, I do like them, and I've liked them since you are a witness that I have liked RSL from the beginning. So I do think that this game, though, is going to be back and forth. It's going to be a little bit more conservative from RSL. They're not going to want to get stretched out. I see this a draw. And what's the numbers on the goals?
All right, so we'll start with the defensive specialties here when it comes to the total. Over under once again in the composite. 2.5 is a minus 134. 3.5 is a plus 181. So if you're thinking, if you're thinking over at 3.5, it's a plus 181.
Oof.
See, you're hedging. So that to me means
no, that's tough. That's tough. I'm gonna just stay with RSL. Leave it at that. In a draw, RSL Columbus draw. Maybe a 1-1, maybe a 0-0, but I think that's going to be a little bit more of a chess match than you're used to seeing from either one of these teams. Maybe the offense is not going to be as effective in this one.
Yep. San Jose in the late game hosting Colorado. San Jose's a plus 114. Whitecaps at home late at BC Place hosting LAG.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Whitecaps are favored at a plus 106. LAG is a plus 209. The draw is almost a plus 300 in the composite.
Wow. Woo. That's good. I like that. You know what I would do with this one? Mm-hmm. I would take the Galaxy in this one, and I would take the over on goals. And you don't even got to tell me what it is. You should. But this is going to be a high-scoring game, man. Both of these teams can really get it going. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Well, 3.5, your over-under at 3.5 is a plus 130, so you can only go more plus than there. So literally, your baseline, over-under 3.5, a plus 130. 4.5 is a plus 288. And 5.5, if you're really feeling it, it's a plus 620. I don't think they get to 5.5. I don't think it's necessarily 3-3.
You know what? The 4, I wouldn't do it, but 4.5 seems tempting. I'm just taking LA Galaxy in this one. But the 4.5, a 3-2 game would not be crazy for these two teams. Fighting the top of the West, that's a good game. But I'll take the Galaxy, no goals.
Plus 288 at 4.5. All right, 2 games left on the board. All Caps SC hosting Austin at a minus 143. No real surprise. But the early game on Sunday, Atlanta United favored at home against Philadelphia Union. Atlanta United plus 108. Your draws a plus 284. Philadelphia Union, who are probably coming in full strength at a plus 213.
Yeah, that's tough. I can see that being a draw. The dynamic changes without Gigi up top for Atlanta. I mean, he's just such a difference maker. Almada, I hate to say it, but at times when he doesn't have that other star on the field, diminishes a little bit. He's a little bit more limited. You could see him get frustrated. Philadelphia is hard to play against. Carranza is a menace. I could see a draw in this one, but it's going to be a tough game for Atlanta, in my opinion.
Yep, I think it's going to be a street fight, and it's going to be a rock fight in a phone booth, as Jarrett says. What is going on at Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar? I know that you've got a turn in about 53 minutes for your new round of Soccer Bar. What's going on?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this Inter Miami and get behind the scenes a little bit. We've had a lot of information come in on the Spanish side in terms of the novella between Tano and Tata and Messi. So we'll give you guys a little bit more scoops on that from Diego Cora, who's always on the ball when it comes to that sort of thing. So check it out. Should be fun. We'll talk about the odds of MLS team winning this CONCACAF Cup. So check that out in about 40 minutes. And Pulso Sports, we have Obed Vargas talking about, I kind of teased it a little bit here, Raul Ruiz, his moment. He was a kid that was he blew up about CONCACAF champions when the Seattle Sounders won CONCACAF Champions League, and he's been up and down ever since then. He's been a starter since Joe Paulo has been injured, but now with JP back, he could be maybe getting some minutes pulled back. So he talks about that balance of being happy of getting JP back, but understanding that he's going to have to continue to play well if he wants to maybe be that partner to JP and not hit the bench. So really good interview with Obed Vargas there at Pulso Sports.
All right. So Four Card is asking, okay, what's the link to the Soccer Bar? How does Four Card get to watch what's going on at Soccer Bar?
Soccer Bar, just like that, BAR on YouTube. You can go to my Twitter at El Rolo NW, and there you can see that I've reposted the link to both our YouTube channel as well as our streaming on various Facebook and other social media. You can also download the podcast, just the sound, through iTunes, TuneIn, all the fun stuff that you guys are used to listening your podcast on. So if you don't catch it live, you can catch it later. You could download the audio in your favorite podcast application.
Well, and folks get to spend their lunch hour here on the East Coast with you if they get to dial it over and catch up with you at the Soccer Bar. It's another go around of Thursdays with Niko, my friend. Have a great broadcast the rest of the day. We will catch up with you next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.